We're smooth 98.1 FM. Good morning and welcome to Business Express. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Omatseye. Good morning to everybody out there. Welcome to a new week.
Awesome. So we just like, before we get into business and before Rotus clears the tray for business agenda this morning, let's let you know you can send in messages responding to the issues this morning on 0809-444-0981. That's it, Rotus. There's no way it will rain without the earth knowing that it rained. The evidence will be there. So this takes us to Kogi, Bayelsa, and who did we leave out now? Yeah, Imo State. So there were elections in these three states that we mentioned. Two of the states have been called and by INEC. We shall find out about Bayelsa in the south of the country. So for us, it is the business aspect that's your concern right now. Take us through and look at the quality of living in each of the states. First, let's begin with the fiscal ranking.
Yeah, so budgets just came out with their state of the states for 2023, not too long ago, using data from 2022 as far as they've been coming out with this every year for the states. And I just thought it would be insightful to at least look at these three states, since so much was made of the elections over the weekends, these off-cycle elections for governor and so on and so forth. So if you look at the fiscal ranking of these three states for Kogi, Imo, and Bayelsa, the fiscal ranking basically is the overall fiscal picture of these states. And so the rankings out of, basically out of the 36 states, or if you want to include the FCT.
37.
Yeah. So Kogi ranks 24th. Imo ranks 29th. And Bayelsa ranks 35th. According to, and they're looking at IGR, they're looking at debt, they're looking at, debt service to revenue, they're looking at just everything possible, health coverage and so on. As far as ease of doing business, Imo State has the highest ranking of the three of them, in 13th place. This is according to PEBEC, the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council. Bayelsa is 24th, and Kogi is 34th. So Kogi is really languishing down there. In terms of the revenue that the states brought in for fiscal year 2022, was pretty low for all the states, although Bayelsa has a bit of an asterisk, and I'll explain in a moment. So
okay.
The Kogi state brought in 19 billion naira in 2022 as far as full year revenue is concerned. Bayelsa brought in 18.3 billion, and Imo State brought in 16 billion. I mean, there are companies that make more money than these states in a full year. In fact, there are companies that make more money in 1 quarter, in 3 months, than these states make in a full year. But then that's just revenue. The FAC, which is the Federal Accounts Allocation Committee, the money that came in, that adds to the state's revenue. Oil money comes in and then they share amongst the states. So Kogi had 72 billion. So if we just take Kogi first, Kogi's revenue is 19 billion. Their FAC is 72 billion. So you put that together, a total IGR, 21% came from, total revenues, 21% came from IGR, 78% came from FAC. So Kogi State is disproportionately dependent on the federal government for revenue. Same thing with Imo. Imo State's only brought in 16 billion, 88 billion came from FAC. So 15% of their revenue, or 15.9, came from their own internally generated revenue. 84% came from FAC. Bayelsa, now here's the thing with Bayelsa. 18.3 billion came in revenue, but 327 billion came in from FAC. So 5% of the total revenue that Bayelsa made in 2022 came from its own internally generated revenue. The remaining 94.6% came from FAC. However, Governor Oddiri was on television a few months ago, and he was posed this question about the IGR. And he said, hey, listen, Bayelsa is an oil-producing state, and FAC comes from Bayelsa, part of it. So Bayelsa, Delta, Rivers, if you think about the oil-producing state. So he was basically saying that it is the oil producing states that are feeding the rest of the nation. So is it fair to count FAC against Bayelsa and claim that Bayelsa is not raising enough of its revenues? So he was basing everything on oil revenue, but then there's still taxes and other things. So maybe you can cut Bayelsa some slack and say, well, it is oil that is taken from their own part of the region that is distributing to everybody else, including Bayelsa. In terms of unemployment and underemployment, I'm using data from Q4 2020 from the Bureau of Statistics.
Yes.
They revised the unemployment recently and so on. So I'm just using that other data because that is broken down for the states. So Kogi State, if you look at unemployment and inflation, Kogi State 38.9% in unemployment as of Q4 2020. Underemployment is 28.8. So you add that together, that's 67.78 of its population that is either out of work or underemployed. That's almost 7 out of 10. Imo State is really bad. I mean, Imo State has historically had almost one of the highest highest unemployment in Nigeria. Imo State is 56% unemployment. Their underemployment is 25.9. So you add that together, that is 82.5% of their working population, either underemployed or unemployed. And then Bayelsa, 36% unemployment, 30% underemployment, that's 66.9. In terms of inflation, from the latest figures for September, we should get October figures this week on the 15th, in 2 days' time. Kogi State has the highest, I think one of the highest inflation levels in the country. Kogi State, 32.9% headline inflation. Food inflation, I think they're the highest, 39.3. So they are pushing 40% food inflation in Kogi. Imo State headline inflation, 27.1. Food inflation is 34%. Bayelsa, 29.9% headline inflation. Food inflation, 33.8. So the takeaway here, 33.8.
For a state like Kogi, knowing its land mass and how arable it is, one would have thought that they would do more farming and food inflation would not be recorded as that high as we're looking at it right now.
Very good point. Kogi is in the bread baskets, and in fact, Kogi is dragging with Lagos and I think Rivers or one other states for the highest food inflation in the country. Also, if you look at another thing, their health insurance coverage for women, really poor. Kogi is 0.2% coverage of health insurance for women. Imo is 3.1%. Bayelsa is 4.2%. If you look at the percentage of their spending that goes to health out of total spending, they are all low. Kogi 7.9% of their total spending. Imo 3.7, Bayelsa 3.1, and they've all got pretty low numbers in terms of healthcare per capita spending, education per capita spending. Education as a total spending, Kogi is 16%, Imo 7%, Bayelsa 10%. Really low numbers. They also all have high debts between domestic debts and foreign debts. So, Omas, I think it's important every time these elections happen. I mean, there was a viral video of fighting going on in the collation center in Imo. They threw out one of the members of one of the political parties. There's been, violence here and there. You ask yourself, so what kind of, for Hope Uzodinma, what kind of economy in Imo State is he taking over? Right? It's an economy with one of the highest levels of unemployment.
It will continue his job. Uzodinma it's like it continues.
Right. So I think it's important for people to know the states. I encourage everybody to go and, it's free. Go to Budgets, BUDGIT, Budgets website. Look at the state of the states. Look at your own state, wherever you're from. Check how much they are spending on healthcare, how much they are spending on education, how high is inflation, how high is unemployment. It gives you a good picture of what are these states doing? What are they doing for their citizens? In terms of their economic metrics, because it's not every time you focus on the federal. I know the federal gets a lot of attention. We need to break down these metrics and look at the individual states. I mean, look at some Imo State, for example. If you look at their debts, right? Domestic debt, 204 billion, I think as of 2022. Foreign debt, $51 million. Their total debt is about 227 billion, depending on how you convert the foreign debt exchange rate. Imo State's growth, in terms of growth in debt, it's grown by 127% between 2016 and 2021. So you ask, I mean, Hope Uzodimma didn't come in until I think 2020 or so. 2020, yeah. So the thing is, what has the growth in debt? What has it gotten the states? The Kogi state, their debt growth was low, 4%. Bayelsa 20%. But they also, all of them, their total debt is higher if you don't include FAC revenue and just include only their internally generated revenue. None of the states make enough money to pay back their debts. Right, so yeah.
So I see messages here already for you responding to some of these metrics you've set forward now, questioning dividends of democracy, like the politicians would say whenever they go to campaign. Now, all of this you've laid bare now simply is asking questions. So what have they been doing or what's going on? How creative they can get. But I see Tayo's message here said, I saw the school where Bayelsa governor polled his vote, and I said to myself, it's better to have done it under a tree, because school building was a cadaver. Everything was gone. Imagine the governor seeking re-election not being able to impact his immediate locality, but charging to vote. Congrats to all the winners, however they emerge. I guess you what you become. I hope that Imo governor will deliver on his promise to send some of the citizens to Europe, and it goes on and on. Well,
yeah, we talked. Look, he's that message. Thank you so much for that message. I forgot about the school where he voted because there were videos of it, and I forgot. We talked about it on Business Express. The Imo governor that said he was going to send 4,000 students overseas to go and learn or get jobs. Thank you for that message reminding us.
Then I got Benga Kamu's message here saying Bayelsa has or receive a lot of derivative funds from the Federation, yet the governor voted in a classroom without ceilings. The people are not holding their people at the state level to account. Again, that is the bane of the country. Benga Kamu, with all the stats about life in Kogi, where are all the achievements claimed by the White Lion? Well, I mean, the outgoing governor of the state, Benga Kamu's message will leave us that. Fine Oluboroko leaves us a message saying, I'm in support of the Bayelsa state governor in the IG argument. If we look at some developed economies like Arabs and the US, they allow their states to manage their resources while sending a percentage of the IGR to the federal. Bayelsa and these other rich oil states would have become Dubai if we practice that, and it's if they shun corruption as well. Well. Sometimes people would ask, what have you done with the little you are in control of, even before you talk about being in control of all of your resources. I find Babatunde Alau's message here saying, it is obvious that 3 states under the review have failed states, but Kogi is worse as far as is concerned. Kogi has huge potentials, but bad leadership has left the state denied the opportunities of growth it can annex. In terms of crime, Kogi state seems to be the champ. States are not productive in Nigeria. They all depend on federal locations. It's a brain lock as far as I'm concerned. Well, Rotus, that's all we can eke out of business this morning. So I want to say thank you so much for your time, Rotus.
Thank you, Omas. Thank you, everyone that sent in messages. And I think we'll find out around 12 noon or 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. who the winner of Bayelsa's election is. So we'll see what happens. Thank you all.
Have a great day, Rotus. And thanks to everyone who sent in messages. My name is Omatseye Atsenuwa. Good morning.